said, "Come wander with me, love. Come wander with me away from this sad world. Come wander with me."
Diet Coke cans made from the Titanic. Written by Alexander Mercer. Read by Alexander Mercer. Part 1. Cabin. Anna, my wife of 3 days, looked into the dark, endless ocean before her with a gentle, newlywed glow. The black water collapsed upon the incredible megalith of the ship as it sliced through the waves like a newly sharpened culinary knife. With 2 celebratory glasses of champagne in hand, I made my way through our rear-facing cabin to its balcony, where she sat on a bench, gracefully smoking a Camel menthol cigarette, mesmerized by the ship's powerful wake. We boarded early in the morning, the day after our ceremony and reception. With smeared wedding makeup, 4 Tylenols, an atrociously large pair of dark sunglasses, and overpacked suitcase, Anna boarded the ship wearing a tastefully mismatched outfit and counterfeit smile. There was something breathtaking about the moment. Seeing my childhood best friend take in the exhaustive introduction of an ocean liner, a girl blossomed through abuse, adoption, and acceptance. Now a sophisticated and successful woman with the world in front of her. She put down her bag and took off her sunglasses amongst the bustling crowd in her plush fur coat, faded Cincinnati Reds hat, stained gray sweatpants, and absorbed the atmosphere of the maiden voyage. The ocean liner, donned with the name My Blue Heaven on its stern and bow, was a magnificent megalith, shadowing the other docked ships into a cold oblivion. And as of July 11th, 1990, the 963 feet, 293.5 meter vessel remains, after its 21-year career, the most innovative and luxurious ship sailing through the transatlantic route. Launched and christened in late 1968 and having its maiden voyage in the summer of '69. Originally the Queen Marie Antoinette, the ship has been renovated from the steam turbine propulsion system to having its own impressive diesel-electric power plant. The Queen was sold 4 different times until it landed in the hands of Rudolph Hamilton, the president and founder of Hamilton Line, a small but highly profitable cruise shipping company. Story has it that when Rudolph first stepped onto the docked ocean liner, as it was being gutted and retrofitted with its new engines during the process of its overall renovation, as he climbed up the steps past the construction workers and investors, he heard Fats Domino's husky voice through the speakers of the small Zenith radio in the corner. The lively piano and horns excited Rudolph. The song opened his eyes, and as he looked into the steel skeleton, he lifted his arms with fists in the air and expressed vivaciously, "That's it! This ship isn't meant to be the fastest blue ribbon winner. It will be cozy and intimate. It will be the warmest place on the ocean. And this is what she will be named." And once she set sail under her new name, people flocked to her like birds going south for the winter. The ship was the home of multiple families, a retired couple, a Catholic missionary family, a widow, and a writer. She sails as an ocean liner across the Atlantic for the first 8 months of the year and a cruise ship during the latter 4. This was the first voyage of the summer of 1991 crossing. She has sailed distinctively for the last 7 years under her new power and name. My blue heaven roared under our feet as I handed Anna one of the chilled champagne glasses. "Thanks, Hellcat," she spoke, as she took the glass before flickering her camel menthol off the balcony. I watched the small cherry ember fall for an eternity until its light had disappeared. I gave a small chuckle and looked at her with widened eyes. "I don't think you're supposed to do that." "Oh yeah? We wouldn't want to start any forest fires," she exclaimed with an inebriated buzz as she pointed to the ocean with her slightly tipped champagne flute. She leaned into me and wrapped my waist around her slender gloved arms. "Smokey the Bear might kill us in our sleep," she said softly, accompanied with a small, pleasurable laugh. Anna and I had room service brought to our cabin, 2 plates of pasta carbonara. With empty plates and newly poured glasses of champagne, I kissed her velvety soft lips as we moved further into the ocean. Anna stood from her seat as a crackle of thunder roared through dark sky. Rain instantly began to fall on us, soaking our clothes and hair. We swiftly ran into our cabin, our plates and silverware clinking into my hands as Anna shut the outside door. I ran with the wet plates as small trickles of water sloshed onto the thin decorative carpet, placed them into the bathroom sink, and took off my dampened shirt. My pants were still moderately dry. After patting dry my hair, face, and torso, I took the lighter and soft pack of cigarettes from my shirt pocket and walked back into the cabin. There, I saw the most magnificent being in existence, laying naked in our bed, only wearing a pair of high-vent orange Nike Air Max 90s. Her long, tan legs were arched and spread, with her slender hands touching herself and grasping onto her thighs. She looked up at me through her dark brown bangs and grabbed her breast. Thunder roared and lightning flashed like white ink on an eternal black canvas as Pollock painted our night sky. My wife opened her thick lips, elongated, and slowly flicked her tongue as I stepped closer to her. She was my muse, and she beckoned me with her wet and glowing body as the warm lamp light embraced her. Anna took an ice cube from the silver champagne bucket and began rubbing it against her vagina. I placed my hands around her waist, plummeted my mouth around her soft breast, sucked her hard nipple, and rubbed it against the edge of my lips. She lifted my face and placed the sweet, melting ice cube inside of my mouth. Another jolt of lightning and crackle of thunder enraptured the night as rain splashed against the balcony door. "Looks like we've angered the bear," Anna said as she unbuckled my belt. I took my pants off and kissed her neck as I laid on top of her. "I want to put it in," she said, placing her hand around my penis. I kissed her and buried my hands into her thick, wet hair as she circled my tip inside the lips of her vagina. We kissed. She pulled me inside of her. She gave a soft moan and rolled her eyes into the back of her head as I pushed myself fully inside and began to thrust. This was the purpose of it all. This. We pledged our souls together, symbolically bound to each other with the wedding bands placed on our fingers. There is an intimacy now that never belonged before. Anna and I have loved each other since childhood. We grew up together and learned to take the rudimentary foundational steps. We had a secret code, a special unspoken vibe that only belonged to us. Drifting apart, we took our steps into the mystery of adulthood alone. She fell in love, I fell in love. We had our hearts broken, and we drifted back together. Now, her beautiful body lay on top of me, our sweat mixing with the rain. I knew most of her spots. She knew the right moves. My hands grabbed her glutes, and we fucked hard and fast. The bedspread had grass stains from her shoes. We had both been working out at the time, and our bodies were in physical overdrive. I had finally lost the layers of fat that had been built up after years of bad dieting. Living and traveling with Anna had changed everything for me and how I viewed myself. I was trim, tight, and filled with testosterone. Anna was at her physical peak. She had always had a tight body from years of ballet. She knew how to measure carbs, calories, and the processes of restraint and recovery. She was my guide, my angel. Anna pulled off of me, licked my newly exposed six-pack, and smiled. "Do you want to try it?" she asked softly. "Definitely," I answered. I stood from the bed, lifted Anna upside down, and held her as she placed her mouth around my penis, and I began to taste her with my tongue. After 45 seconds, neither of us had the strength to carry on, so I placed her back on the bed and kissed her. She pulled me back on top of her and said, "We are getting so much better at that." The storm began to dissipate, and we came to our crescendo. "Tell me," I said with her shoes wrapped around my lower back. "This body is yours forever," she promised me softly. We climaxed with our bodies intertwined. We saw the peak of existence, out of breath and in awe of each other. "I love you," she told me, breathing hard. "I love you," I replied, outstretching my sweaty hand. She high-fived me and we began to laugh. "Good job, home run." "Thanks, that means a lot," I said, laying beside her, wrapping my arms around her chest. Anna pushed me from her, disgusted. "Get off me, you're gross." "That's fair," I joked, kissed her left breast, and jumped from the bed to wash off the rain and sweat. After our few moments of meditative peace and silence in our showers, Anna and I listened to the rain and ocean before falling asleep amongst the other passengers sailing into the darkness. Diet Coke cans made from the Titanic. Part 2. Outdoor bar. I awoke a few hours later in a damp bed, wearing damp clothes, with half my face clung onto by Anna's damp hair. Since our vows have been spoken into the world in the presence of our loved ones and God, Anna and I had written a new record of a physical and mental roller coaster. The drink a lot, fuck hard, and wake up in abysmal dread cyclone. I pushed Anna off the bed, and she fell, wrapping the comforter around her like cotton candy. This was my life now. Peak existence. What didn't I have? My sales of my novel had plateaued, but had garnered the unofficial title bestseller. My wife was achieving her dreams. She was one of the most sought-after ballet dancers in the country, and we were happy together. We were on a permanent vacation, with every experience and journey another exhibit in the Universal Amusement Park. Anna rolled onto her back, wrapped tightly inside of the thick comforter. Through a big yawn, she said, "What the fuck, Alex?" "Oh good, you're up," I replied. "Want to go and get some breakfast?" "You took the words out of my mouth, Flapjack." "Don't say Flapjack. No one even knows what that means." Anna, the most beautiful creature above and below this ocean, lifted her shoulders and pushed the bottom of her head down, causing her chin to double. Then with a deep voice, almost sounding like a swamp toad, she replied, "Flapjack." Then she swayed back and forth until she gained enough momentum to stand up. She stood before me, still swaddled in the blanket, and puckered her lips, a subtle demand for a kiss. It was sweet and longer than most of our morning kisses. At first, when our relationship was still a seed branching out its roots, we stayed away from each other. Then, after a while, we just didn't care. "Embrace me, oh bright shining sun, and let me take heat on the hot rocks. Let me bask deep into your heat and evaporate into the smoke," I performed into the room of unzipped suitcases and wet clothes while holding my wife's face. Slightly annoyed with me, she pulled her head away from my hands. Then, almost in a sudden jolt of panic, she rested her head upon my chest. The comforter dropped, and she began to softly brush my chest hair with her manicured fingernails. "We are going to fight so much when we get older. I'm already so over your shit." "Is that what you want to do today, Anna? Fight?" I replied, resting my chin upon her hair. Yes, Anna responded, then bit my left pec hard. The pain was instant and every engine in my body came alive. Ow! I exclaimed and pushed her away from me. That's what you get for pushing me off the bed, jackass. After we made up with another kiss and got dressed, Anna and I headed to the dining hall for breakfast. Anna ordered a cold glass of chocolate milk and a hot cup of coffee. 2 eggs over easy with 3 slices of bacon. I ordered a Sprite and a hard-boiled egg. After a walk around a few levels of the ship, exploring and shopping, Anna looked through the heavy curve of her newly purchased black sun hat, gave a small grin, and sat down at the outdoor bar. I followed and sat at the bolted-down stool beside her. She quickly turned, and the wide brim of her sun hat slapped me in the face. Finally, a place that doesn't have carpet. You have a problem with carpet? I asked, standing up and moving to the next empty seat outside her wide brim's reach. Are you out for blood? She looked at the ocean, its forever rich blue around us, pointed and said, See that? Then quickly turned around, the brim of her hat fanning a stack of napkins off the bar, pointed to the eloquently designed green carpet in the deck's port side hallway, and said, You see that carpet? Yes, I replied, standing and picking up the dropped napkins around her. After picking up the last one by her feet, I stood as she turned, the brim of her hat slapping me in the face again. She smiled wider, the purpose of buying her expensive, obnoxious hat already paying off. But without losing the preconceived higher ground in her mind, she said, That's a really nice carpet. I mean, it would look ugly as shit in somebody's house, but somehow it pairs well with the Atlantic Ocean. The bartender came over to our side and asked us what we would like to drink. Anna looked at the menu on the bar, then smiled again while saying, I was thinking we would play a game. You order my drinks and I order yours? Game, I replied. She held the menu away from me, only the front with the graphic design of the ship showing my direction, and pointed to an item. This whole honeymoon, I'm just going to point at things and slap people with this hat. Anna whispered to me like it was a secret covenant, and then handed me the menu. As I looked at the menu, scouring the wines, beers, alcohols, and mixed drinks, Anna put her elbow on the bar, placed her chin upon her palm, and said to the bartender, How about them Bulls, huh? That Pippen is something else, right? Wasn't Jordan the MVP of the finals? The bartender replied, almost confused. Oh man, I thought while deciding on her drink, she's got you exactly where she wants you. Jordan, which one was that again? The bartender looked to be in shock while shaking the concoction together. He's 23, dear, I replied, happy to add to her performance. He's one of the greatest basketball players of all time, the bartender replied in amazement. Was he the guy crying with the trophy? She asked, locked and loaded. I pointed my order to the bartender as he looked with me with widened eyes and placed her order upon the bar. He's been with the Bulls since 1984. That was a huge moment for him. Oh my gosh, the fact that somebody even beat the Lakers, ending their Showtime run, was a reason alone to watch the finals. But Michael's playing was so on point and beautiful, everyone is talking about it. He was poetry in motion. Anna took the jalapeno margarita I ordered for her and took a sip, ready to turn the tables. But that was really due to Jackson implementing the triangle offense, making the team work together instead of relying solely on Jordan and his shooting skills. The bartender recognized she had been teasing him, and he busted out laughing. I really thought you were being serious. I sipped from the jalapeno margarita she ordered me, and the three of us shared a moment of pure happiness for the Chicago Bulls' victory. Anna knows everything about everything, especially carpet that paired well with the Atlantic Ocean. She always had an unexplainable knowledge of every categorical topic to exist since the collapse of the Roman Empire. Diseases, sports, instruments, leaders, and artists. Anna could engage with anyone that gave her a moment of their time. Soon they were hours into the conversation talking about pirates and declaration signings. After a cool buzz washed over my reddened skin and Anna carried on with the other bar patrons, I fell into the depths of my consciousness and drifted into pictures of my new novel, The Man Who Wore Pink. These were my favorite moments of writing, the intangible photo book of memories you flip through before words ever hit the page. It never ceases. The third eye of a visionary is forever unbound to the quarrels of the natural realm. Imagination is God's greatest gift to any species. It is the purest and grandest parts of ourselves. And as I looked out into the bluest ocean, with infinite mysteries in every direction, I was writing my first fiction novel. Lost in the existential infinity, a slender hand found itself entangled in mine, my beautiful wife, my soulmate. This wonderful woman now connected to me. I was brought back to here in the present with her, my sunburned and inebriated goddess. She looked at me, her blue eyes reflecting the Atlantic, its devastation, fate, and transcendence. The countless passageways her mind has explored, her eyes only seeing the path God had designed for her before the universe was set into motion. The pain and sorrow she's experienced, now gifted with the pleasure and exuberance of endless drink and food. Anna kissed me on the cheek, her lips chapped and dry. "I love you," she spoke softly. "I love you too," I replied, my heart overwhelmed. Who was I to deserve this? "I think I'm getting a little drunk already. I want to go back to the room and take a nap, but I'm afraid the bed is still going to be gross," she exclaimed loudly. Anna finished off her drink and clinked it against the bolted down bar. "Need to put some towels down on the mattress next time before you come near me with that enormous cock." The other patrons at the bar began to eavesdrop. Anna patted me on the back and flicked her hand. "Give me keys. I'ma pass the fuck out." "You have the keys, babe," I replied as she leaned her chin upon my shoulder and slid her hand through the buttons of my shirt, rubbing my newly begotten abs. "Oh yeah," she laughed. "You right, bad boy." She leaned into me, her lips brushing against my ear, and whispered, "Grab my ass." I did, tightly curving into the palm of my right hand. She kissed me on the cheek again and took the keys from the back pocket of my high-waisted denim shorts. "Have fun, don't die," she said, walking away, rotating the cabin key around her finger. I watched her as she stepped onto the hallway carpet and made a gagging motion, sticking her tongue out and placing her index finger in her mouth. It was a private gesture, knowing Anna didn't perform it for an audience, but nevertheless, from the new cult following she had attained from this afternoon's mere bar talk, added with our gross public display of affection, the surrounding clientele of mixed race, religions, and economical backgrounds paused and subtly watched as their entertainment stumbled down the carpeted hallway. Once her obnoxiously large sun hat was beyond their sight, their attentions moved towards me. An elderly man shook his head and laughed. "You two must be newlyweds." It was a surreal moment, one I hoped would constantly be in the background of my mind, and something obtainable I could grasp at any moment I desired. A shiny bottle of endless nostalgia and young love. My wife. My new wife. "Never met her before in my life," I replied, standing from my seat, placing a tip upon the bar. I patted him on the back and walked away. Diet Coke cans made from the Titanic. Part 3. Casino. The room was filled with smoke. Sounds of coins clinging, people laughing, and monetary conversations danced through my ears like an overwrought symphony as I stepped through the casino's doorway. I walked over to the bar and ordered a bottle of beer and lit a cigarette. Back into the world of my novel. As an artist, I never felt right about giving the audience what they wanted. I wanted to exceed their expectations. Everyone wanted a fictional novel after the preliminary successes of my short stories. Then, when news broke out that I began a non-fictional memoir of my life, everyone wanted it to be about my celebrity relationship with Amber Myers. The microphone I had carved with my bare hands, one clack of the typewriter, and scribble of the pen at a time. The voice before the audience that I have created with my soul and heart. Influence is a powerful and covetous thing, no matter its size. Amber never deserved a slam piece, and I didn't stay up at night as a child staring at the ceiling, praying for the chance to just write a broken-hearted book without grace and not be grateful for the incredible doors she opened for me. How do you keep the most sought-after woman in the world? The question that's rattled the minds of every hopeless romantic in search of unparalleled beauty and priceless communication since the creation of the wedding ring. Then, the unknown variable. Anna. The diamond she hand-cut of herself, too big to be placed atop a golden ring setting. The nameless girl in the big city. No cameraman waiting outside her apartment. No stylist making a career from her headshots. But a person whose eyes you can fall endlessly inside of and see the reflection of your soul entangled inside the thinnest strains of her DNA. Someone that will reward you with a love deeper than you could possibly ever dream of, just by acknowledging her and trusting her with a piece of yourself. She was somebody who made you feel like somebody, without worrying if you were the only body that was laying beside her at night. Anna never made you feel as if you were a contestant in an unspoken game show where you had to perform for her heart. There were no games or magic tricks to winning her love. Devotion went far with her. It's what made her kisses better, deeper than anyone else's lips have ever pressed mine upon. Anna became the words I needed the most. She became my voice. In the midst of Amber's people calling my people, trying to zone in and have me represent Amber, the best is profitable for all of us, and the rumors of my relationship expose grew larger and larger. I was tucked away in my cabin over packs of cigarettes and bottles of wine, eating slices of ham and cheese, cracking out a novel about my Christmas vacation with my childhood best friend. I love Amber. I got to love her during the most chaotic years of her life. I got to see her during her highs and lows. I knew her agent, manager, business partners, and family. And this is where the purpose of this story truly begins. Inside of this noisy-filled cruise casino where the 6 degrees of separations meet. A new heroine flung through the astral plane and cosmos, transcendent and purposely connected upon the bar stool beside me, reading a paperback copy of my novel, Green Banner Street, with reddened eyes and warm tears falling upon her cheeks. Astra Macedonia. Of course, that wasn't her true name. She was born Svetlana Krasnoskayev in Kiev, Ukraine, on February 23, 1969. She was someone dear to me, omitted from my public memoir, never mentioned in the novel she currently held due to the tragedy surrounding her. Astra looked intently into her paperback. A thin red straw lifted to her lips as she sipped from her vodka soda with lime and ended the current chapter. As the ice ascended from her draining clear alcoholic beverage, I suddenly asked the bartender to replace her empty glass. She bookmarked the page, closed the novel, and placed it face down upon the casino bar. I waited until the bartender brought her the drink, trying to think of something clever to say, and once he handed it to her, I walked over with something only halfway humorous and introduced myself by asking, "Would you like an autograph?" Astra, still trying to figure out the origin of her new vodka soda, looked at me, and I witnessed a myriad of facial expressions until my presence was fully acknowledged. "Alex!" she exclaimed as she stood from her bar stool and gave me a hug. I squeezed back, overjoyed at the reunion of once again being near her. With reddened eyes, she smiled her beautiful smile. "You were writing about Amber," she said, explaining her earlier soft tears. "You two really loved each other, didn't you?" My mind drifted to my past relationship with the movie starlet. Pictures of memories played as a slideshow momentarily in the forefront of my mind until I snapped back into reality. Yeah, we really did. We sat down at a booth and resumed our conversation. We delved deep into common and relatable topics and gossip. I hadn't seen her in years. The ethereal matter of her face and body filled back into the crevices of forgotten images of my past. Even the most beautiful and lucid canvases God creates becomes blurred and transformed as time passes. But instantly, once you can see it and smell it, the person, place, thing, everything comes back into focus. Her velvety accent, perfume, bangs, and eyes before me again. Let it be known, I never looked at Astra with any longing of intimacy or romanticism. Instead, my elongated awes and serendipitous infatuations were merely a product of my divine respect for her. She was impossible to forget, and her entrance was never ignored. Her soul was magnetic and spellbounded those she surrounded. Astra will spend the remainder of her days serving a purpose of beauty and elegance, created as a goddess to cover the earth in milk and honey. Astra burped loudly, slammed down her empty vodka soda, and lit a cigar. "Can you believe we are on a fucking ocean liner together?" she asked after blowing thick smoke rings. "Holy shit, isn't that some kind of divine purpose shit?" She then, without skipping a beat, gave a short and honest prayer. "Dear Jesus, please forgive me for my crude language." Then she put her fat cigar in a clean ashtray. "You look really good, Alex. Marriage usually gets people chunky." I felt too gross about myself. I've eaten shit my entire life, and after years of chain smoking and drinking nothing other than alcohol and caffeine, I started having these weird panic attacks. "Yeah, I remember those shitty bologna sandwiches you used to make." "Oh yeah, I learned how to cook healthier too," I replied, excited from the alcohol and caffeine flowing in my body. Astra and I laughed and ordered another round. "Wait, how did you know I was married?" I asked as we waited for the next drink. "Amber told me." Thinking back, writing this, I realized how ignorant I was in that second. But for a moment, I had forgotten the past and reality came flooding back to me, all at once, in a tsunami wave. Aslan Myers, her deceased husband, Amber's brother. "They called us a fucking power couple," she exclaimed after shooting another cold shot of Stoli. "I hated that stupid phrase so much." "You were both rich and famous," I responded, matching her energy. "That doesn't mean I wanted to be categorized and packaged. America wants everything to be so simple and grand so it can be sold. They call it idealism, but everyone is just in a fucking cult." She simmered and collected herself. Aslan had nothing to do with my foundation, nor did I with his. I was still in Ukraine cleaning houses when Aslan and Amber made their first film. My time hadn't come yet. Now, of course, fate projected me upwards until we became lovers. But I would argue it was far more complicated than our own fruition and creative angst. Power couple. Ha! "Aslan really cared about you," I replied, smirking at the sight of her seeing her worked up. "He was the fucking love of my life," her head tilted. Then, from the corner of my eye, I could see my beloved wife, Anna, in crumbled clothing and bedhead, slowly made her way through the sea of people to the booth where Astra and I sat. Anna sat beside me and whispered in my ear, "Well, I'm already a bottle of Pepto-Bismol into this day." Astra stood up and exclaimed excitedly, "This is your wife?" She then leaned in and wrapped her arms around Anna. "Oh, okay, this is fine," Anna replied, leaning away from her and pressing into me. "Anna, this is Astra," I said frankly. "Astra, this is..." "Oh, psst. Don't introduce us so blandly, Alex. I want to remember this moment." Astra stood back down on her side of the booth and pulled out her paperback version of Green Banner Street. "Would you please sign this?" She reached and handed the copy to Anna. "Me?" Anna replied, honored and taken aback by the request. "Of course. This novel is mostly about you anyways." Anna smiled and scribbled her name underneath the bold title on the first page and dated it, then proceeded to hand the book over to me. "No! Fuck Alex!" Astra exclaimed, grabbing the book back from my hand. I chewed the inside of my cheeks as she placed the copy into her purse, knowing why she didn't want me to sign my novel. It was an odd feeling, rejection, coming from someone you cherish so much. To be completely honest, the moment hurt my feelings. My pride had needed a kick in the balls, and Astra delivered one thoroughly with expensive high heels. Without any proper introduction to the situation, I will fully confess to the facts, here, now. In the fall of 1989, after Amber and I had taken our closing bow and bid adieu to the final performance of our relationship, before the romanticism and intimacy could fully drain, Amber's lawyers, manager, and agent swarmed in like vultures over the bloody remains of our broken hearts and slammed down a pile of paperwork. Legally, I was not allowed to give details over our breakup in any form of published literature, or her brother's suicide, be it an interview or from my own hand. Aslan was my best friend. He was the Picasso to my Matisse. We revolted towards our talents, and in return, we created more perverse and intriguing art. He was the closest thing to a brother I had. Amber, Astra, Aslan, and Alexander. We were a family. My most beautiful chapters, crossed out in red ink and ripped from the manuscript of Green Banner Street, threats of lawsuits and being dropped from my publisher followed. My dream publisher. The sticky situation of retelling the most delicate moments of our lives. So sweep it all under the rug and pretend it never happened. Fame has an innate ability to squander the purest of voices. I was terrified of losing everything I had worked for. The foundation felt like it was cracking beneath me. It was a dark and strange period. In hindsight, it was only a tunneled bridge on my path that connected me with the things I had hoped for and the things that I had prayed for. I don't regret making my debut novel about Anna when the world was asking for an expose on my relationship with Amber. In the end, it wasn't a sacrifice to focus on Anna and my child at home than the juxtaposition of my short-lived, glamorous, and tabloid-centered life. Anna is my wife now, my partner who I'm traveling the world with as I write my fictional novel, The Man Who Wore Pink. This is the answered prayers from the child who whispered them during his lonely nights in a duplex home. But as we sit here, still left with the mess hidden from under the rug, with Green Banner Street signed by its main character instead of its author in Astra's purse, I will full-heartedly admit the slight twisted feeling in the pit of my stomach. Did Alex ever tell you about the time when Aslan fingered me in the Museum of Modern Art? Astra asked as she lit another cigarette. We were now past the awkward introductory phase, hours into the conversation with a stacked ashtray and deep into our drunkenness. It was in front of the water lilies. "Uh-huh," Anna replied. "Alex once did it to me in a McDonald's drive-thru." "Alex!" Astra laughed hard and slapped the table. "You tacky boy! I always thought you were more artistic than that." No, I wouldn't blame it all on him. I asked him to." Anna stepped in. We all drunkenly laughed. By the time our table had been cleaned from the night's finale and the empty nightcap glasses had been taken away, Astra, Anna, and I stood from the seats in which we had been planted for over 4 hours. Astra tripped over her footing as she clumsily tried to place her high heels back on her feet. Anna and I saw the quaint and subtle stumble and caught her before it became a tragic fall. "Fucking St. Laurent's," Astra remarked as she caught her delicate footing and began to walk away from us uprightly, with grace and sophistication, to her first-class cabin to sleep soundly in her plush bed. Diet Coke cans made from the Titanic. Part 4. Promenade. Anna and I walked down the ship's promenade, making our way to nowhere in particular. Everything was quiet, and it felt like we were alone in the universe. The waves and night sky surrounded us endlessly, feeling as we were in some purgatory state, cruising through the spectrum with the sanctimonious gates at the edge of the waterline, leading to eternal bliss and holy glory. We sat upon a bench, and Anna laid her head on its headrest as she placed her legs on top of mine. She pulled a cigarette from her pocket, lit it, and placed it against her lips. She looked at the curvature of the ship's funnel, billowing thin smoke into the air. The haze flew through the sky and seemed to dance amongst the stars. Anna took a drag and said, "I don't want to be a bedroom couple." Anna exhaled from her nose, pushing the vapor into the heavens, hoping it joined the ship's fumes. "What?" I responded, lost in the haze of a full day binge drinking and early morning exhaustion. When I was in LSU, my roommate had a boyfriend. And he was a cool guy. I liked him, thought he was nice, but I don't know. The longer their relationship went on, the less they would hang out in the apartment and the more they'd go into her bedroom. It's like their entire relationship was constrained to the bubble of those four walls. And I get it, intimacy is important. I like when we fuck and make out and lay in bed all day, but fuck, I don't want that to be all this is, she explained. I looked at her feet, laying on my lap, and began twirling my fingers through her shoelaces. We've known each other since we were kids, Anna. I can't imagine us changing our dynamic this late in the game. We're married now. Exactly, she cut me off. That's exactly my point. We've never really slowed down. You got out of a relationship. I called you. We fucked on Christmas. You left and wrote your book. We had a long-distance relationship until I graduated college, and we've been traveling and living in hotels ever since. What's going to happen when we settle down from all of this? When it's just us and a television and we have to mingle with the neighbors? We are graced with the opportunity to be in our little bubble now. We are constantly in different environments and surrounded by strangers. But what's going to happen when we have friends over? We are going to be the couple that can't handle hosting other people at our house? Are we going to be the flaky couple? She said, pulling her legs from my lap and sitting straight up. Why worry about future problems, Anna, when tomorrow is never guaranteed? I said, looking into her concerned eyes. Oh, don't give me that shit. You aren't worried about the people we are going to become? No, not really. And I don't see why we are arguing about this. I don't want to fight with you. Because we are just like them, Alex, she screamed into the atmosphere and her face reddened. Genuinely confused, I responded, Who? Then Anna got from the bench and stood before me. Astra and Aslan, she replied, her face getting redder. They lived in the fucking St. Regis and he killed himself. That's not the same as what we are, Anna. We are two completely different types of partners, I said, looking up at her, absolutely dreading being in this conversation. I hated seeing her like that, drunk and anxious. She was having a panic attack in the middle of the ocean. Most of me wanted to comfort her, but part of me was too exhausted to. I didn't like being compared to Aslan, and the remark got underneath my skin. I just wanted to walk away, sleep, or jump off the edge of the ship. Oh, really? She continued. Tell me, how is our life different? They lived in hotels, drank themselves away every night until their creativity was drained, and never left each other's side. I scratched my beard and dropped my head, not knowing what to say. Seeing my defeat, Anna softened her tone. I just don't want to end up like her, babe. I would never do that to you. Ever. I stood from the bench and looked down upon her, deep into her eyes. Good, she said, wrapping her arms around me. I don't want to need you, Alex. I married you because we chose each other, for better or for worse. She kissed me, the battle over. And because you're hung like a horse. We both laughed and embraced each other's vodka-flavored lips as the sun began to rise. I don't know what is going to happen after the honeymoon phase is over, Anna. I guess no one truly finds out until life slaps them in the face. But I don't want anyone other than you to live with, explore with, or create with. Aslan had his problems, compulsions, and in the end, they became too much for him. I feel terrible for Astra. God knows how she's made it through this, but you're not her, and I'm not him. We are us, and this relationship, this marriage, is our own. And what we have, above anything else, is our transparency towards each other. You don't hide anything from me, where I have to find out about something later, where I lose my trust in you. You're not afraid to tell me what is on your mind, and even though I want to be in bed right now, I'm proud of you for being honest with me. I love you, Anna, more than you could possibly ever know. I love you so much, Alex, she said as we pressed up against each other. Now can we please go back to our cabin and get some fucking sleep, I asked. Oh my god, I'm so glad you finally said it, she said, relieved. We let go of each other and she stretched out her hand. Let's enjoy the honeymoon phase while we are still in our honeymoon. I grabbed her hand, we walked down the promenade, and made our way to the elevators. Diet Coke cans made from the Titanic, Part 5, Luxury Suite, First Floor. Astra awoke with a hangover, alongside most adults on my blue heaven. She gazed at the chandelier above her, the sunlight dimly refracted off its crystals, and masturbated. With a subtle sense of shame, she stood from her bed, washed her hands, and turned on the suite's lights. After a carafe of coffee was brewing and the shower was warm, she cleansed herself from the layers of casino smoke and pistachio shell flakes. In the shower she meditated, prayed for forgiveness for her sins, and reminisced of memories past. She thought of a hot shower in the Californian penthouse she stayed in, a small and grimy apartment where she lived with her family in Ukraine, a few houses she cleaned, her old school, memories trickling further into the dark past of her youth. As the steam opened her pores and she lathered the soap against her dehydrated skin, Astra fell deeper into the abyss of her childhood and remembered the trees of Kiev and how she could walk from one side of the other without ever leaving their shade. With eyes closed and hot water trickling down the curves of her back, her mind brought up smells, visions, and feelings she hadn't materialized in what seems like an eternity. Beauty, terrors, remorse, unanswered questions, and eventual peace, all collected and packaged in an attic cardboard box. Astra came back to her present, collected her thoughts, opened her eyes, and turned off the shower. After dressing, she opened her Bible to the Gospel of Luke and began reading its passages. 6 months before, she had begun a 90-day reading challenge to complete it in its entirety. At the beginning, things went well, and she found joy highlighting, writing notes, and memorizing scriptures until she came to Isaiah. The prophetic word of Jerusalem and Judah condemning their wickedness and oppression became incredibly difficult for her to comprehend. What was once a beautiful connection with what Astra believed to be her higher power during her darkest hour became something she feared. The passages were no longer beautiful, but harsh and cruel. People seemed to go from God's greatest creation to what seemed to be his biggest disappointment. Giving her life to Christ, accepting him into her heart, and letting go of her past had given Astra the only glimmer of hope she had felt since Aslan. After his death, the loss of her love and living situation, and her friend inviting her to a church sermon was only the beginning to a wonderful transformation. She sobered herself, broke her pornographic addiction, tithed, and became a light in the world. Worship songs made her lift up her hands. She attended every church service she could, and in every interview she boasted her newly found faith in God, crediting him for the only reason why she was still there. When she began reading the Bible, it was her personal challenge to spiritually mature and to dawn herself in Scripture so the Holy Spirit could direct her to flourish in her new life. The task was daunting, but she stayed adamant in her pursuit to complete the Holy Book. Through its exciting beginning, Adam, Noah, Abraham, its boring and slow parts of the Torah, the decoration of the tabernacle, counting of the civilians and numbers, the incredible life of David, the beauty of Solomon, the surpassing of wealth after Job's trials, the needed words of Psalms and Proverbs, and the passion of songs. Everything seemed so connected to her life. Astra spent the end of every reading grateful for another chance to begin anew with grace and righteousness. Then an opportunity came. Another photo shoot. surrounded by old friends, her material possessions, and every intoxicant imaginable. Astra remembered clearly as she smoked a cigar across from a man she was attracted to, her relapse back into drunken lust. After the orgasms and hangovers, Astra missed feeling like herself. She felt like God pulled her out of the pit, put her back on track, and all she wanted was to put her hands behind the wheel again, to take control of her own life and go as far as she desired. The Bible reading ceased, and the spiritual journey was placed on hold. Her addictions came flooding back. The expensive alcohol-filled nights became longer, and the sexual appetites became stronger. She needed more, harder, faster. The rush was fun and fantastic, but it didn't last long. Veiling your reality never fully masks it. Behind the facade is always the constructed being of your present. She realized she missed God, but didn't know how to reconstruct the relationship she had once had with Him. Too many mess-ups, too much guilt kept her away from what she longed for the most. Isaiah felt like a steady reminder of all of her failures the past couple months. She turned away and fell back into the temporarily rewarding arms of her idols. But after the rush was over and the payoff no longer as fulfilling, Astra asked for forgiveness, strength to let go of her idols, and courage to live with righteous intent in the pursuit of glory. Now was the long journey, a hilly and windy road of clinging on to her spiritual maturity and bad habits. Like a person trying to shed the last of their visceral fat, eating salads and lean proteins throughout the day, only to make it to the midnight hour where they crave and devour a bowl of ice cream. Astra could be willfully strong until the vulnerability of the night. As she read through the feeding of the 5,000, there was a knock on the door. She walked through the luxury suite and opened the door. Before her stood Anna, sipping from a water bottle and looking at the eccentricities of the hallway's decor. "Good morning," Astra greeted her with a hint of curiosity at Alex's wife standing before her. "Hey, you invited me over for breakfast last night. We were all pretty wasted, but I didn't want to be rude on the chance you remembered and I didn't come." A small sliver from the blacked out memories came before her. Being in the bathroom with Anna and complimenting her, almost demanding for her to come to her suite and eat breakfast with her. "I'll be there," Anna had slurred back. Oh fuck, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot about that. Please, come on in," Astra exclaimed, widening the door for Anna to enter. Oh no, that's alright. If you're busy, I can just come back later. It's no big deal," Anna replied. "Of course you can come in," Astra said. Anna walked inside the suite, taking in the aesthetics. "Luke," she said, turning to Astra as she put a pot of coffee on. "Yeah, you caught me. I'm a religious zealot." "I can hardly believe that," Anna said, sitting upon the bed beside the open Bible. "Oh? What makes you so sure?" Astra asked as the coffee began to drip. "I don't know," Anna shrugged. "You don't seem to portray yourself as perfect. Religious zealots seem to be too narcissistic to realize they don't need to be perfect to be used by God." Not knowing the power of her sentiment, Anna had spoken the words Astra needed to hear the most. Since she could remember, the simplest of human failures had seamlessly pulled her away from God's mercy. But in only a few words, and it reminded her that perfection isn't the goal. Her sins had already been forgiven, and the price paid. The small, humorous, and defensive remark she had aligned the most compelling response that saturated through the hollowed and scuffed edges of her chakras and entity. Now, without a move and footing to navigate superior in the conversation, Astra responded, Have you ever read it? The Bible?" "Twice," Anna answered. "Once in high school, the second in college." "Really?" Astra asked, shocked. "Of course. Probably read it for the wrong reasons though," Anna said. "What makes you say that?" Astra asked, taking 2 coffee mugs from the cabinet. "Oh, I don't really know.
I think part of us wants to read because we want to show God that we are some sort of good student or something. Then He can give us what we want. But I know that's silly, thinking there is a breakthrough at the other end of the revelations. Like the fulfillment of the reading project will unlock another life level. Anna answered, then chewed the inside of her cheek. Did another level open up to you, though? Astra asked, pouring the steaming hot coffee into the mugs. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess so. I'm definitely not where I used to be. Anna lifted up her hands, pointing around the luxury suite, then dropping them. Astra carried the mugs to the room and handed one to Anna. I'm a porn addict. Anna looked at her and smiled. Well then, maybe you are a religious zealot after all.
Diet Coke cans made from the Titanic, Part 6. Luxury suite, 2nd floor. Amongst the hours of the two women sitting, talking, acknowledging, and drinking black coffee, they concluded that they would both spend the day inside of the suite fasting and away from all temptations and distractions. Anna called our cabin from Astra's phone and asked if it would be okay if I was left alone for the day. With my novel at the forefront of my mind, I excitedly became enraptured in the thought of being left alone to write with no limitations on time or worries. Go get 'em, slugger, she said. Just for your information, I'm placing our marriage in God's hands today, so if the tide of the battle turns, you'll know why. Oh, I responded. Well, that's a weight off my shoulders at least. I feel like I can breathe again, she laughed. I love you. See you tonight. I love you too. Hopefully I'll be able to have some words on the page for you to read when you get back, I said with a big smile, happy to get back on the grind. You better, baby. Anna finished, then swiftly hung up the phone. She placed the headset back upon the receiver and leaned her head on the back of the couch as her arm rested atop the elegant wooden table. We got into a fight last night, she voiced to Astra before she sipped from her coffee again. How the fuck could you ever get into a fight with Alex? Astra asked. The boy is completely harmless. Anna softly stroked the edge of her coffee mug with her thumb, gazing at the warm black liquid, and licked her bottom lip and smiled. He is. He's a great shit talker, and that's why we've always gotten along so well. Since we were kids, the way he would make me laugh has always been my favorite thing about him. But I don't know, honestly, I'm afraid we are turning into you and Aslan. Astra perched up from her chair and exclaimed, Me and Aslan? Anna knew that this was a difficult conversation she was going to have to maneuver through, but she didn't want to hold anything back from this woman or keep her fears in line. Astra could answer things, not the kind of things you would read in a biography or news article. Aslan's suicide was highly publicized, but there was always the missing human element. Anna never knew Aslan, like Astra or Alex. She could feel disheartened by his loss and relate to the situation only through what has already been said. But other than the surface level depth of this man's life, she never truly understood how a man who was so vicariously successful, loved, and adored could ever give it all up. The captured dream, the mountain peak, the beauty, the accolades that were chosen for him but never received in his hands. Oh honey, what we had is nothing like what you do. I can see the similarities with Alex and Aslan both being writers, but why on earth would you waste a perfectly good night with your husband on such a silly, anxious thought? Astra said as she opened her jeweled cigar box and took one from the velvet cradle. It isn't just that. Alex and I are out here, living in nice hotels, traveling, wearing new clothes, drinking, smoking. We are totally disconnected from the problems of the world or a regular life. I don't have a job or a car payment. I don't have to worry about being evicted from my home.
Who am I to deserve this, Astra? Who am I to wear a fur coat and high heels, walking past hungry children and people living in the street? Does God not desire for you to have an abundant life? Astra interrupted, puffing from her cigar. Anna slouched back into her chair, the coffee gone from her mug. Abundant life? Astra exhaled a large cloud of bluish-gray smoke. You cannot compare your life to anyone else's. We don't enjoy our blessings when we covet our neighbors, but if we see someone who we perceive to be less blessed, then we can't enjoy what we've been given either. So what do? She leaned into Anna and placed her hand on her knee. You enjoy yourself, baby. I am. I promise I am. It's just, I'm not used to this. This past year has been so magical. 2 years ago, I was screaming at my ex in his shitty fucking camping trailer about the stupidest bullshit. Now I'm happily married to a best-selling writer. My life is a vacation. I can go to places I've always wanted to. Trust me, none of this is fucking lost on me. But what did I do to deserve any of this? Anna said, lighting a menthol cigarette. I'm afraid it's going to end terribly. Ah, I see now. You think too much of a good thing is going to require tragedy to keep the universe scale from tipping. Astra spoke, replacing Anna's empty coffee mug with a crisp new can of Diet Coke. Doesn't it always? Anna asked. Astra sat back down in her plush chair overlooking the vast ocean, the front row of My Blue Heaven sailing through with ease, grace, and elegance. May I tell you my story? Astra asked. It was the question Anna had longed for, the invitation to unveil the mythological prose that could give answer to her deepest anxieties and fears. Finally, offered to congest and purify in the iniquities of her soul, Anna responded with as much constraint and humility in her being as she could offer. Please. My family left Kiev after the Chernobyl explosion. The Soviet Union was collapsing, less so than it is now, but when a nuclear reactor goes to shit and the entire world is staring at you, it doesn't take long before everything else starts to go to shit. So we left. It was a horrible and terrifying time, but there was so much to be excited about. Ukrainians are a very well-educated people. We really don't have anything fucking extraordinary other than our pride in education. I wanted to be a nurse. Can you believe that? Astra chuckled at the thought and took another puff from her thick cigar. We started over and moved to Texas. I was going to be an Aggie. They have a great nursing program, and if it wasn't for money, I would probably be wearing that golden ring. Me and a couple friends went out to a club one night. Wasn't going to be anything crazy, but that night changed everything for me. A talent agent came up to me and offered me a chance. Cleaning big Texas homes paid well, but modeling paid much better. One thing led to another, and after about 8 months, I became one of the most sought-after models in America. It's a crazy thing being the it girl, but I didn't go into it dumb and blind. I knew what it was. I knew that just because I was invited to the house didn't mean I was allowed to sit at the table. I was there to be looked at and to be flirted with and seduced. And to be completely honest, it felt nice. Rich, lavish gifts from men and even women. Communism makes terrible romantics. But here, in a free capitalist country, people will buy whatever is new and beautiful just to see you smile. Of course, some want to fuck, but when you're not known for putting out, it makes the gifts far grander. You become the goal and the prize. You become the gift. From a crowded and small apartment in Kiev with water-stained ceilings and the cracked bathroom window to one of the most expensive penthouses in California, it felt like God had personally chosen me. It felt like nothing was impossible. Then I met Aslan. He changed everything. He became my everything. I hadn't seen his film at that point, but I knew it had been a release of that rarely captured lightning in a bottle. There was an aura to him, so gentle, yet so masculine. A lot of people don't know this about him, but he was a crop duster before he became famous. We met at just another party. You know the kind. The ones where everyone goes to find another breakthrough. Casual business. Drug-reddened eyes looking directly at you as you're offered a small guest sitcom spot or dinner invitation. Of course, the dinner invite comes with maybe even a lead starring role of a B flick, but after the bottles of champagne are finished, you're going to have to suck dick to get the part. It's amazing what wealth and a beautiful location will make you become. It changes you. We've all done it, been wooed by the labels and lighting. But Aslan was different. He was sort of a weirdo. He was more of a voyeur of that lifestyle than an active participant. Maybe that's what made him such a great fucking director, his ability to look. I guess he never lost that crop dusting edge. The way he would look at you, like he was studying the world through your eyes and trying to see through your reality, enchanted me. It was just another bullshit party. He was just another bullshit director. But I fell in love with him the moment he came up to me. It was the beginning of a whole new world for me because I could also see the world through his reality. Chernobyl, college, modeling, all my heartbreaks, letdowns, rejections, breakthroughs, and shattered ceilings. Nothing compared to him. That's lust. And I've been searching for that rush ever since. The idea of being swept away in a whirlwind romance like that has always seemed so silly until you become a part of one. Astra looked at Anna as she took the last sip of her Diet Coke. Astra puffed from her cigar and tapped it with her ring finger, holding it before Anna. I even smoke his fucking cigars because I don't want to forget his smell. Holy shit, Anna responded, placing the empty soda can upon the glass table between them. Astra gave a subtle grin and continued, exhaling the smoke from her cigar. You know the story of Abraham, right? From the Bible? Anna replied. Genesis, Astra replied. He's considered the father of our faith, but what did he do, really, other than have a child at an old age? How can a man who lied about his wife multiple times, laid with another woman, bore a child with her, then sent them away, be held in such high regard that Jewish, Christian, and Muslim people considered him a saint? Why would he be one of the few human beings to speak directly to God and his angels? All he had to do was keep having sex with his wife, if you really think about it. And he received the offspring outnumbering the stars. I think about Ishmael a lot, Abraham's first son. What did he do to deserve to be outcasted? He was just a boy. And it took me a while to realize how important he is. How even though he and his mother were sent away from Abraham, it never took away Ishmael's blessing. He's a prophet in the Islamic faith, venerated and even acknowledged as an ancestor to Muhammad. God still made a great nation out of him. Astra asked her cigar and leaned back into her chair. Now going back to Aslan and me, when we lived in the St. Regis, we lived so recklessly there. We filled the bathtub with champagne and made love in it. We partied without ceasing. People came and went as fast as the money, and I could see how you would relate that picture to you and Alex. But this was different. This was a freight train barreling down the tracks at full speed. The only way it was going to end was disaster. He never showed any signs of depression. He never even spoke about suicidal thoughts. I suppose those thoughts were too deep inside of him for them to be vocalized. That no matter what, that was going to be his way out. They didn't need to be checked in or brought upon anyone else. That it was his decision. I've never hated someone more in my life than him, Anna. Do you know how confusing that is? To hate and love someone with your fucking entirety. It ruins who you think you know, who you go to bed with at night, who you give up your time and heart to. And I guess that's the selfish part of me. That after the dust settled, the only thing I could think was, why me? What did I do to deserve this? Why do bad things happen to good people? Astra looked into Anna's eyes and crushed the nib of a cigar. God has a funny way of reminding us that life isn't what happens to us. It's what happens for us. She giggled and continued. John Jacob Astor IV is the man that started the St. Regis. I lived in his creation, and my life changed forever in that hotel room. Do you know what happened to him? He died when the Titanic sunk. He was a man that had so much to give to the world, just like Aslan. Then Astra picked up Anna's empty Diet Coke can and held it high in the air. It reflected beautifully underneath the crisp and translucent chandelier. Do you know what would have happened to the Titanic if it never sank? If it completed its multiple decade-long career as an ocean liner? It would have been stripped down, and its steel would have been recycled into everyday bullshit like this can. She then stood from her chair, set the can upon the marbled floor, and violently crushed the can underneath her foot. Instead, the Titanic is now a fucking sanctuary at the bottom of the ocean.